Joining me on the FiveTwenty Collective phone line, he is from the Music Entrepreneur Club, man, and so much more. He's been in part of music for quite a while. We'll dive into all of it, but joining me on the phone line right now is Mr. Damien Ritter. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, Eric. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. What's the past year been like for you, man? I know you're just busy, period, and then add in just kind of the craziness that everyone's had to navigate and the adjustments that's had to take place. What's that look like on your end?
Yeah, it has been quite crazy. Obviously the world is in a tailspin, and for me professionally, I'm kind of all over the place at this point, and it's crazy. As much as I preach structure to artists, sometimes I feel like I'm losing mine. But I still do, like you said, I'm the founder of the Music Entrepreneur Club. So we have our weekly sessions. We have a podcast. So that is going strong. We're sponsored by BeatStars, so they've been super supportive of the platform. I've also gotten into comedy. So I've managed a couple of comedians. We got a live monthly show here in LA. They do really well on social media, and we're trying to, figure out how to make that jump from social media to television and film. So that's a new world that I'm getting into. It's almost like deja vu, because I used to run a record label, and prior to that, I didn't have any record label experience. So now kind of jumping into television and film, even though there's a lot of similarity between, just the entertainment industry as a whole, I feel like I'm doing it all over again, trying to figure out, the television and film space and how we can be successful in it. And then I have a project called 1 Week Notice. It started in 2018, and it was supposed to be an annual project, but that project is where we fly 6 artists out to a city, put them in a house, and task them with creating a project in a week. So we did that this past June, and the album just came out last week. So that's starting to relieve some of my stress a little bit as that content comes out. So yeah, that's something that we'll continue to do on an annual basis. I'm already kind of planning the next one for next year, trying to see who's involved, with platforms, with brands. And then we'll start, looking into how we select the artists, maybe early next year. So super busy, man. I feel scattered. Some days I feel like I'm on top of things. Other days, just kind of a mess, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I get it. And, we definitely want to talk about what's happening with the Music Entrepreneur Club. But man, let's talk a little bit more about some of these, I don't know if you call them side ventures, because I'm sure they demand just as much of your time and energy as anything else. But, just some of these other things that you were talking about, you're talking about the comedy. That's, the Whole Crew's Crazy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the monthly comedy show is called The Whole Crew is Stupid. But I manage a comedian named Big Ja, and that concept came from one of his sketches that he posted on YouTube and Facebook. It's one of his sketch series that's become pretty popular. So we just took the name, applied it to a live comedy show, and the live comedy show is a combination of stand-up and sketches. And then there's a live music performance at the end as well. So we're working with some platforms now, or talking to some platforms now, to try to get that picked up and put on a bigger platform. So yeah, man, it's been fun. Comedy, I'm a fan of comedy. I'm a fan of Big Ja. Big Ja and I have been knowing each other for over 20 years. We went to college together. So it's been great. Yeah, it's been great to see him, rise and to see his numbers grow. He actually used to be the security guard for some of the artists on Funk Volume. So I've been watching him work on his sketches for a long time. So I used to watch him edit sketches on our tour bus, and now he needs his own tour bus. So it's been dope to see.
Yeah, man. So what kind of led you to that decision to kind of venture into the comedy world? How did you decide, man, this is something that I know I want to be a part of?
Really just knowing Ja, and, knowing how solid of a cat he is and how talented he is. I just asked him if he needed help, because a lot of the stuff that we're doing with him is very similar to what I used to do with the Funk Volume artists, in terms of, interacting and growing a community online, selling merch, touring. The television and film stuff is new, but a lot of the same things that I used to do with the label I used to run is what I do now. So I thought it was a good fit. He agreed, and we've been locking in for the past 2+ years.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And you mentioned Funk Volume. That was an independent label, right? And you ran that with Hobson. I mean, very successful independent label as well. I mean, I would say let's talk a little bit about that, and just, I guess, leading into it, just like how you got into music, kind of how long you've been part of this industry, because it all plays up to what you're doing now, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I got into music in 2008. That is when I got laid off from a consulting job in Chicago. And I was just trying to figure out, what I wanted to do next. It just so happened that my younger brother called me. He was going to UC Irvine at the time and said that he wanted to drop out of school and do music. And he seemed pretty passionate, pretty serious about it. And at the same time, Hobson was a friend of his from high school. He was in an equally frustrated position, but different. He was already signed to a label called Ruthless Records. But they wanted to start their own thing. So, we eventually got Hop out of the deal, and we teamed up to start Funk Volume, which was pretty successful for, it took a while to be successful, and nobody starts out just, making money right away. But it took us about 2-3 years to start having some good momentum. And then, we signed a couple more artists, Dizzy Wright, Sharon Benton, went on a nice little run. And then unfortunately, at the end of 2015, early 2016, me and Hobson butted heads in the most ridiculous fashion ever. And it crashed and burned. But that's how I got into music. So I think, with entrepreneurship, a lot of times you just, you see an opportunity and you just run with it, right? You just kind of take the chance, you just run with it. So that's kind of how I got into music. It wasn't something that I went to school for. I did go to school. I didn't go to school for music. But it wasn't something that I saw in my career path. It was just something, an opportunity that was presented to me, and then we just took it and ran with it.
Right. And you talked about going to school. I mean, you've got an MBA from Stanford, right? So, I mean, the whole entrepreneur thing it seems like it's something that's just a part of you, almost. Like, is that just something that you've always had?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea that it would be in the music industry. But yeah, I mean, I went to school, did my undergrad at UC Berkeley, went out into the working world, worked for some financial services company, went back to school at Stanford, got my MBA. And then I took a consulting job out when I left Stanford, and that's the job that I got laid off from right before we started the label.
Wow. So, I mean, not the easiest schools to get through, right? So, I mean, whenever people are listening to you, I think there needs to be a little bit of respect there, I mean, not only that, but just from your experience, man, it's pretty cool seeing what you guys were able to accomplish with Funk Volume. I know that there was, success not only just on the charts, right? I mean, you guys put out Billboard charting, iTunes charting music, but I think just the level of just respect within the music industry itself that was able to garner puts you in a very unique place. And I think that's why it's really cool seeing what you guys have been able to do with Music Entrepreneur Club up to this point, and looking forward to seeing what comes next as well. So but I think that all kind of leads into what you've done with 1 Week Notice as well. I know you mentioned that a little earlier, where you are able to work with these independent artists and bring them together to really focus in and create a project. Why don't you just talk a little bit more about 1 Week Notice for a minute?
Sure. So I'm always a big fan of collaboration. I think independent artists, they do collaborate, but I don't think they collaborate enough. So 1 Week Notice was just an idea that I had to bring artists together to kind of force that collaboration and kind of be an example to other independent artists of just kind of creating a narrative, having some collaboration, and putting together a dope piece of content and music. So it's something that I want to continue to do. I have a lot of ideas on different versions we can do and how it can change and evolve. Just for example, I definitely see us doing like regional 1 Week Notices. So we could do like a Chicago version or an LA version. I definitely have a lot of ideas for how I want 1 Week Notice to evolve, but, want to take it slow and see who all wants to be involved from a platform perspective to help amplify the project. This time around we had quite a few brands involved. So we had Facebook Get Bars app, or not Get Bars app, it's the Facebook Bars app was involved. Revolt was involved. They premiered the documentary. Mackie Gear donated a bunch of gear to help us record during the week. Red Bull was involved. So I just want to keep finding the right partners for this to amplify the messaging, and hopefully it continues to be, a project that shows independent artists the value of collaboration and networking with each other.
Yeah, man. And then, so you talked about it, you made a documentary during that week where the artists were all together, and you actually broke that up into episodes as well, right? That people can watch on YouTube. I know that's where I've been seeing it. What was that process like? Was that something that was different for you to not only just be bringing these artists together to work on music and create an album? I mean, I know that was a process that you've been through plenty, but what about the creating this documentary side of it as well?
Yeah, we just thought that would be a cool component to kind of, peel back some of the layers, go behind the scenes on how the album was constructed, what the environment looked like, how the artist felt about the experience. We actually did a documentary, a Funk Volume documentary back in 2013, I believe is when it came out. That's on YouTube as well. And that was actually supported by Revolt, too. So I just had a long-lasting relationship with Revolt. So they supported both documentaries. But anytime you create content or anytime you make music, you want to come up with as much content as possible, as much visual content as possible, so people can see. It's much more of a visual. We live in a visual world where it's important to have, strong visuals, strong narratives. And we just thought that the documentary would be a cool component to what we were trying to do. It would give people insight into what we were, not that what we were doing was some, complex thing that people have never seen before, but I wanted people to see the creative process. I wanted people to hear, the artist's perspective on the week, and how it was going. I wanted them to see the house and just how everything came together. So I thought, it just made a lot of sense to add that to the project.
Yeah, and how, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, like how heavily were you involved throughout that week? Because, I think whenever you watch the episodes, right, you see yourself kind of popping in here and there, but it's really kind of focused in on the artists that you guys brought together. But what was that week like for you, kind of behind the scenes with everything?
It's a stressful week. It's a simple concept. It seems simple to pull together, but if you've ever worked with artists, if you've ever worked on a project of this size, just the logistics alone, just kind of making sure everything is getting done. We had photo shoots, video shoots, we had brands coming through, dinners to plan. Like, it was just a lot on the logistics end. So even though I didn't get too involved creatively, which I didn't think I'd have to be, because I felt like if I selected the right artist, they kind of do what they do. So minimal supervision on the music. I knew the music would come out dope because I'm fans of these artists. I think they're dope. So I think anytime you put dope artists in the room, some dope music's going to come out. But everything else around it, just makes the week very stressful. There's a lot of moving parts. There's probably about, 20 to 30 people involved in this project. When you talk about the artists, photographers, videographers, people that are helping out behind the scenes. So yeah, it's a pretty stressful week because there's a lot invested into it. Not just from a money perspective, but, just time. And there's a lot of brands involved. So we have a lot of responsibilities to get them the exposure that we promised them. So it's definitely a stressful week, but I think it paid off.
Yeah, man. One of the individuals involved with 1 Week Notice was DJ Payne One, who anyone who has checked out or knows about Music Entrepreneur Club, they should know about him as well, right? Like, what was that like, or what did it mean to you having him a part of 1 Week Notice as well?
Yeah, Payne is my guy. So, I try to get my folks involved in everything that I'm doing when it makes sense. We probably should have had the producers in the house as well. We didn't for this project. We were just kind of limited by space, didn't want to pack out the house too much. But going forward, I think the producers need to be in the house this time around. Payne and Dream Life, and actually Miles was he was one of the producers that we added late. He was in that. He came by because he was local. But going forward, I think that the producers will be in the house as well.
Awesome. And guys, again, joining me on the phone line, it is Damien Ritter. You may know him as Dame. He's a great follow on Twitter. I'm just going to give that a shout out right now. And before we go any further, man, where do they follow you at?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, fairly active on Twitter, Dame_MEC. Or you can find me on Instagram, Dame.MEC. Or just, follow the Music Entrepreneur Club page at Music Entrepreneur Club on IG and TikTok. We started posting a few things at TikTok, although we don't have very many people over there, but it exists.
Right, there you go. You got to be everywhere, right? Even if it's that right there is stressful for me. I know that. Like, it's like, dude, there's so many platforms and apps and all these different things that you can have your content on, and it can be a struggle sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, it definitely can get overwhelming because all these platforms want you to use all of the different types of tools and services that exist within the platform. So for example, Instagram, they want you to use story, and they want you to use reels, and they want you to use the regular post, and they want you to go live. And every platform kind of wants you to use the different tools. So it's tough, and I understand when artists kind of complain about being on social media. I hear the complaints, but it's necessary. You got to carve out that time to create content for social media that's going to capture people's attention.
Yeah, man. I know that YouTube is something that does well for you as well. At least I think, if I'm trying to remember back, I feel like that's where like I really started getting into some of your content. Was I think when I came across a interview you did for BeatStars with Brian Zizuk, if I'm not mistaken, and I know that you guys do you have that video aspect to your podcast as well. You do the interviews. Like, what does video mean? You talked about it earlier, that artists, they have to have that visual component, and I mean, maybe now more so than ever. Like, how important is the video aspect just for connecting with a new audience?
Man, it's crucial. I don't think you can do anything without a visual component, and it doesn't have to be super polished, super expensive. It really just has to be something creative and something that captures people's attention quickly, especially if you're a new creator or artist. I think that's probably the number one piece of feedback that I give on artist videos is just taking too long to start. People have very short attention spans, and if you have like long intros to your video or that nothing happens for a little while, people are just gonna click away or swipe up. But that visual component is a must these days. I just can't imagine an artist that does well with audio only. I'm not even sure how you start to get people's attention with just audio.
Well, let's talk about the Music Entrepreneur Club, man. So that's, started out, you've expanded a little bit here recently, and we'll get into that. But it started off with you and DJ Payne 1, as we mentioned. Like, just take us back to the beginning, man. Like, how did the idea for MEC kind of come about, and what were those kind of early steps like for you guys? Yeah,
well, I mean, I've been doing this type of work for a while. Even when Funk Volume existed, I hosted a couple virtual conferences because as I was learning the business, I just felt it was important to share what we were doing with other independent artists. So I think the first virtual conference, I want to say, was in maybe 2012 or 2013, and then we did another one in 2015. Facebook just reminded me, or brought back the flyer from the 2015 conference. So really the MEC is just the F Funk Volume Conference evolved, just because Funk Volume doesn't exist anymore. I felt like it was even more important, having gone through that, where a lot of the breakup was just because of a lack of understanding, a lack of business knowledge. I felt it was even more important, to have a platform that artists can turn to get some solid information, just because there's a lot of bad information out there. So the MEC, we started, I think it's been, maybe 5 or 6 years now. And we've gone through different iterations of what it looked like. It used to be a membership-based program that people paid for. And then BeatStars came in last year to sponsor it. So we made it free and available to everyone, where you can tap in twice a week, Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific. And we have a session. I got a session today in about an hour and a half. So we have guests that come through on a weekly basis, and we just talk about different topics that I feel like artists need to be aware of. And it's been dope. We've gotten some great feedback, and people seem to enjoy and get a lot out of the session. So we continue to do it. We also have a podcast that we drop every Monday. And then we'll take the MEC on the road again once, COVID restrictions lift a little bit, because we also tour the MEC. We hit different cities and basically just have panels and things in cities where that don't normally get, music conferences. So it's dope. So looking forward to getting back on the road.
100%. And we are looking forward for you guys to get that opportunity, because I know, just what I've kind of, dove into with MEC, and I'm not even an artist, I see the value there. So like, if you were to say, kind of wrap up the mission or the goal of MEC, like in just like a simple sentence, what would that be? Like, what are people coming to Music Entrepreneur Club to get?
So I would say they're coming to get information that you need if you want to build an independent business in the music industry. Because the people that we have on, have a lot of great experience. And even though there's different ways that you can maneuver these days to become successful, there are some common threads amongst those that are successful. So, I think it's a great platform to get the reality of what it's like to navigate the music industry.
Yes, sir. And I know that you guys have, you're building a community around this. And there's a lot of different places to tap in. Like where do people start? Like, where do you point them to? Like, hey, go here first. And then, what else is available? I know like there's a Discord server, that's a part of the community. Like where do you kind of start people out at?
Well, we never really got the Discord running. There's one that exists, but it's not very active. Where I point people to is just the Instagram page. You'll get, you'll be able to keep up with everything that we have going on if you just follow our Instagram page. And then we have a text number that we send out text alerts every time we go live. So if people text MEC, just the letters MEC to 844-206-7800. They'll get a text alert every time we go live right before our live session. Or they can go to our website, musicentrepreneurclub.com. But if you just go to our Instagram and follow us on Instagram, you'll be able to keep up with everything that we're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you talked about, you guys go live. You have the podcast. I was actually listening to the newest episode this morning. I believe you guys were talking about the Astro World, what happened down there and all that. And one thing that you've added, or one person that you've added, is someone that we're very familiar with here at FiveTwenty Collective. She's been on the podcast before, and I think if you're a part of like the Christian hip hop community, if you're plugged into that, then you know who Erin Knight is and what she brings to the table. Just talk a minute about bringing her onto the team, kind of like how did that happen, and what was it for you that you were like, yes, this is someone that I want around what's going on with the Music Entrepreneur Club?
Yeah, so Erin is somebody that I think we followed each other before I reached out to her, but I actually reached out to her to have one of her artists, Scotty ATL, on the MEC. So we were coordinating that, and I believe there was 1 week where he was scheduled to come on the MEC and he couldn't make it. I knew that she was a manager, so I was like, hey, would you want to fill in for him? So we had her on the MEC, and just during that live session, like once you've been in music for some time, like when you talk to people that get it, and it's apparent like right away, you know, that this person has some real legit experience in the music industry, is super smart. So through that conversation, you know, on the MEC, it was apparent to me that she was super sharp. And I felt just needed a new voice. You know, it was me and Payne have been doing this for quite a few years now. And, you know, I felt like we needed a new voice, preferably a woman's voice. And I just circled back with her and said, hey, would you want to, you know, help us out? That's how that happened. And I'm super grateful for her support. And I look forward to, you know, executing some of the ideas that she has to grow the brand.
Oh man, yeah, I know that she's got ideas, so we'll be looking forward to that, seeing what happens there, for sure. No, I think that you guys have a good dynamic building there. Whenever I listen to the episodes, you know, I listen to you guys on Audio Mac, so there's a plug for that as well. If anyone out there uses Audio Mac, you can find the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast on there. Go make sure you give them a follow. And listen to those episodes when they drop. But yeah, man, I see as you guys go along, and because it's still early with her being a part of the team, I can see the potential of what's coming down the line, and I'm excited because, like you said, there's a ton of knowledge between the three of you.
I appreciate the feedback. I mean, we have been doing this for a long time, and I think that with that, you know, there's just a level of comfort, you know, talking about all types of different topics within the music industry, because we've probably had some firsthand experience with that topic. So I think there is just a level of comfort, and I'm glad that kind of is seen when people are listening. So yeah, I definitely would agree.
Yeah, man. And let's talk about just a little bit of kind of that just firsthand experience, firsthand knowledge, and like what kind of advice you would give to independent artists. You know, I'm sure there's some go-to, and I don't want to try to get every bit of info out of you, but like whenever you first come across and start interacting with an artist, like where's the place that you like to start as far as like what you share with them and some of like your, you know, just kind of go-to tips as far as like how an independent artist can grow their business essentially?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, this is I can have advice for days, but I would say, you know, some of the most important things are definitely learn the business. It's not that complex of a business, but you have to take the time to learn it, and you have to continuously educate yourself because it's always evolving and changing. Different social media platforms are popping up. Platforms are changing. The way we listen to music is changing. You know, so I think that the education component is huge. You know, you want to surround yourself with the right people, good people that you can trust, people that are committed to being the best in their role if possible. So you want to develop a solid team. You know, you want to have a great content strategy. So not just music, but, you know, the visual component that we talked about. Like what is your story? What is your narrative? How are you going to share that story through your social media, through your merch, through your shows? Because there should be a constant, consistent theme throughout all the content that you put out. So I think that's a lot where artists just don't even think about it. They start rushing out content. They're not thinking about their brand. They're not thinking about their story, the different narratives that they should be crafting and sharing with their fans, because that's how their fans are going to, you know, connect with them on a deeper level. So I think those are definitely some of the things that, you know, that I talk to artists a lot about.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about how, you know, you did a lot of artist management over your time in this industry. I think one big question that I would love to ask you is just as an artist, what's your advice as far as like if they're thinking about maybe I need to get a manager? I feel like that's a big question that we see a lot. What is your thoughts there as far as like when's the right time to look into getting a manager and what should they be looking for?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people would just tell you, hey, get a manager when you have something to manage. And I don't really agree with that, because we didn't really have anything to manage right away when I started working with my brother in Hobson, but together, we created something to manage. So I would say, be open to a manager when you find somebody that is just as passionate, just as dedicated, and you guys have a shared vision for what you want to do. That's hard to find. That is hard to find before you have something to manage, though. So I think that's why a lot of people say just wait until you have something to manage. But if you have somebody that fits that description early, there's nothing wrong with locking in and creating something to manage together, in my opinion. If you don't have this person, then you're going to have to, start the journey alone and probably attract that person with the momentum that you build on your own. That's probably typically what happens. So, you probably shouldn't start off with the expectation that you're going to have a manager early on, that you're going to have to build something on your own and attract people to the vision. So in terms of what to look for in a manager, somebody that is organized, somebody that is dedicated to the role, somebody that's continuously educating themselves, somebody that's good at building and connecting with people. Those are probably the top qualities, in my opinion, for a manager.
Perfect. So guys, I hope you're, taking these notes down and applying them for sure. So as we look ahead and 2022, we're right up on it. I mean, I know you talked about, the next installment of 1 Week Notice, but like, as we're looking at the year to come, what are we going to be watching out for when it comes to Damien Ritter, whenever it comes to the Music Entrepreneur Club?
So for the Music Entrepreneur Club, we should be touring at some point in 2022. We also should have another iteration of our Collab for the Crown contest. That's a contest in which we kind of force artists to collaborate with each other in order to participate. So we're thinking about that right now. And then just continue to have our weekly sessions. For 1 Week Notice, going to try to make it bigger and better each year. So we'll figure out in the coming months, which platforms are going to support the project. But I'm going to try to get started earlier in the year, but I'm not sure when it'll actually happen. But 1 Week Notice will happen next year. And then hopefully you start to see the comedians that I work with, Big Ja and Minx, on the big screen in 2022. I mean, they've been in some stuff here and there, but in terms of, getting their own show or a bigger role and a bigger recurring role, that's the goal for 2022. In addition to them touring as well, the whole crew is stupid. We'll take that all out on the road, and we'll do a nationwide tour for the whole crew is stupid as well.
There you go. And a little bit of a follow up on that as well. And I might be putting you on the spot just a little bit here, but if you were to kind of look out at just the music landscape, just within the music industry here, within the next year or couple of years, like if you were an artist trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit, like what's something that you see on the horizon that artists should be preparing for within the music industry? I mean, no matter what happens, in terms of how people are listening to music or NFTs or anything that happens, like it's always important to build your community, right? Like if you're able to build your community of fans, and you have a direct relationship, you own the communication with your fans, you get their emails, you get their phone numbers. No matter what changes in the music industry happen, if you own the connection with your community, you're going to be able to evolve with
however people listen to music in the future, whatever services are available. So that's what I try to encourage artists to do, is to build community amongst your fans, and try to own the communication with your fans. Try to get the phone numbers, get the email addresses. So no matter what happens to different social media platforms, no matter what new social media platforms exist in the future, you're going to be able to keep moving and growing as an artist, if you're successful at building community.
Yeah. And I think whenever I've seen some people talk about community, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly, the importance of building that community. I guess my question would be, like, whenever you're using that word community, like, what does that look like in your opinion? Because I think with social media and just the way that people connect with each other, there's been this shift where people take, these people that you haven't met as community, right? And that's okay. But I saw someone mention on Twitter not too long ago this idea of you don't even need your hometown anymore. And I feel like there's something wrong there. Like, I feel like you need those grassroots still, whatever it is you're building as an artist, as someone with a platform, whatever. You need that local community as well. Like, what's your opinion there? Has the internet and social media reduced the importance of that local community?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome if you have the support of your local community, because obviously, there's a lot of similarities amongst the people that live right in your town, and you can connect with on a certain level. But if that doesn't exist, the internet has allowed us to create connections with people that have shared interests outside of our physical communities. When I started Funk Volume, I would say we eventually had a fan base locally, but it didn't start locally. We got out and connected with people that were rocking with us early on outside of our city. So yeah, when I say community and artists, like, how do you build community? What I mean is, early in Funk Volume, like, we created a lot of opportunities for our fans to interact with us and each other, right? And then, we shared certain narratives, certain stories that people could really identify with, that, enhance that engagement or enhance that connection with the artist. So we gave our fans opportunities to sell our CDs. This is just an example. There's many examples, but, early on, the first album that we put out, Hopkins Raw album, we allowed our fans to buy the CDs at wholesale price. So we allowed them to buy, as long as you buy 10 or more, I think it was, you can buy them for $2, and then you can turn around and sell them. So that enhances communities. We're giving our community an opportunity to make money from our CDs. It's kind of like NFTs today, right? The idea is if you buy an NFT, as that artist it grows in popularity, maybe you can sell that NFT in the future for a higher dollar amount. So we were giving CDs for $2 and people were turning around selling them for $5, $10, $15, keeping the profit from those CDs. We also had Funk Volume basketball jerseys that you can personalize, right? So, if you wanted a jersey, you can put your name on the back. So those were probably my favorite piece of merchandise early on. But those type of things help create community and strengthen that community. There's a stronger bond. Because if you do these type of things with your community, like, your fans are going to be fans forever, because they're going to remember these things that you're doing, to try to bring people together, to try to benefit people's lives. So that's ultimately what I mean by community, and it can get deep, but that's what I think artists should strive for. And it's because if you create community, you're going to have a very long career.
Yes, sir. Man, you mentioned a lot of things there that I feel like could lead into a whole nother discussion, but I know that I know we need to be respectful of your time today, that you got, another live coming up here soon that you got to get to. So I'm going to hold off, and maybe I'll throw it out there that we can, reach out in the future, maybe get you to come back to the 520 Collective Podcast and hit on some of these other ideas you just threw out there, if possible. We'll see.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. So, again, before we wrap it up here, Dame, and get out so that you can get to your show, just one more time, let the listeners know, where do they tap in, whether it's website, social media, whatever, where do you want them to be at to support what you have going and what the Music Entrepreneur Club has? I
would just say find us on Instagram at Music Entrepreneur Club, and then my personal page is dame.mec, and then on Twitter, dame_mec. Reach out and tap into our live sessions. There's a lot of people that we have that drop a lot of knowledge for free. These sessions are free to attend, and I think it sometimes can help save a lot of money as you avoid some mistakes early on if you listen to what some of these folks are saying. So tap into our live sessions.
Yes, sir. We appreciate your time today, Dame, and just hopping on the podcast with us. We'll look forward to, communicating with you more in the future as well. So, and guys, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Like we said, the Bookkeeper 24/7. Check them out at tbk247.com, as well as the rest of our episode sponsors. And we will catch you guys on the next